In this lesson, we'll be doing the last few edits to this first facade, and we'll also be doing the entrance glazing, which is in this area here. Now, to get going, you can select one of the objects for the entrance glazing together with the front elevational CAD information. Once you isolate that, you can go and take that object and select all of the polygons. So I'm just showing you here that this object is this half here. I've selected all the polys, and you can go and right click and insert. Now the insert will be by polygon, just how we've done for the inner glazing for these windows here. And the distance you can calculate, in my case I've calculated to be 5 centimeters wide, so half of that is 2.5 centimeters. Once that is done, these inserted polys can be detached. And with those internal polys selected, I can then go and tessellate them, TES enter, right click on tension, and then that can be shelled to 1 centimeter to be our glazing. Then the frame object which surrounds that glass can be shelled to about 10 centimeters. So you can shell it outer by 5 centimeters and inner by 5 centimeters. And what that has now given you, if you isolate that, is an object where you have your frames and your glass that we've inserted. Once that is done, you can take your glass from the one side and mirror it to the other side. Now I already know that my pivot point for that object is exactly on this line here in the middle. So when I do click on mirror and instance, I immediately have it copying to the correct position. If you do need to set that pivot point up manually, all you need to do is find out what coordinate that point is. In this case, you could go and select this vertex here, and you could just copy that amount by going Ctrl-C on your keyboard, and then in the hierarchy properties, you click on Effect Pivot Only, and then you can go and manually modify that pivot point there by going Ctrl-V and Enter. So that pivot point will now be exactly on that center line, which is over here. So once that object is done, we are ready to move our entire facade over into the correct position on plan. So just in case your CAD information is not frozen, you will need to go and hide it in your layers. You can then select your entire facade, and you can go ahead and shift it back. You can either do this by eye, or you can look at the corner here, and you should be able to, if you manage to do it accurately, you should be able to snap that inner corner into the right place. Once that is done, we know that we need to move our entrance into the building, and we can turn on another CAD layer to show us where that is. It's the plan windows and doors, so turn that on. And then in the plan view, you can then go and just manually move that back till about there. Now the last thing to do is to just manipulate the walls so that we can read the thickness of them. So what we'll do in this case is we'll start with the easy part by selecting one of these instanced objects, and we will go and select each of the windows where the opening is. So all we need to do here is to know the thickness of the wall. In this case it's around 30 centimeters, and we can click on extrude, and instead of extruding towards us, we're going to extrude inwards by 0.3. Click enter and then just hit delete. Now again, just like with the window frames, I'm not going to worry about the inner surface of the wall. I'm not really doing views of the inside, so I'm going to leave that empty. I'm just going to focus on the external facade. Now you'll notice that all of them that have been instanced have now been done, so those openings are now replicated. But the ones that have been copied need to be done manually. So I'm going to go and do those off camera again. You don't need me to show you that again, since I'm sure you get that idea. And the last thing I'm going to do in this video is I'm just going to give some thickness to the wall in this area around the entrance as well as on the outside. So to do that, all you need to do is you need to grab those edges that are on the side, and then you can manually, holding down shift, just drag them inwards. On plan, you can see exactly how far you need to pull them in. In this case, it's just till about there. You can do it using the snaps if you like in perspective view. I'm just going to do it by eye, and I'm going to do that. And even if I want to, you could just shift it in like so. So what that has gone and created is it's basically built that side wall for you. Now you can go and do the same thing for this arc. I'm just going to isolate that. I'm going to select all of these edges and deselect the ones I don't want. That way I get the whole edge. And manually you can go and hold shift and just copy that across. Now for this edge here, you could either leave it just as it is, it's already good enough so that you can at least see that thickness. If you do want to do the inside edge, you can go and pull it up to about 45 degrees. It doesn't really matter where you put it, since you're not going to see it. And you can then take these edges and just snap them on. And here, if you like, you can have a look at that X value, copy it, and then just paste it into that X value there. So the result is that you just get that inner edge, just so that you can see the thickness of the facade. Now the last thing I'm going to do before this video is complete is I'm just going to take the outer edges, click on loop so that you get all three of them, and then just drag them to create some thickness. In plan view, just like we did with the other entrance, we can just shift them back to approximately where they need to be. Then what I'm going to do now is I'm quickly going to pause this video, and I'm just going to repeat that exact same command on these lower two as well as uppermost edge, and I'm going to do this roof as well just by dragging those edges, and I'm also going to delete these openings for these windows. So I'm going to do that while the camera is paused, just so that we don't waste time looking at the same action again. So there you have it. The edges have all been moved back and the window openings have all been extruded and then deleted to give us that thickness. So again, I'm not going to worry about this back wall. I'm just going to leave it as is, since once we bring in our context buildings, we're only going to be focusing on this front elevation. So the only one I didn't do is this one over here, and it's because we have this entrance garage going into our building. So instead of taking these three edges and stretching them all the way back, all I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch them till about here, and then I'm going to move them across like so. Then this top edge I'm going to shift all the way back and then use my snap on this side just to get it in the right position. And I'm going to do that so that I can add this garage entrance. So I can select all these three, or the edges, and at least ring them so that I get that whole array. And you can go and connect, choose two segments, and then just increase your pinch so that you can get a good looking garage entrance. And then you can select the bottom two faces like so. Let me just go and redo that command. Right, so just to show you, I'm selecting the inner two polys, and then I'm just going and extruding the same way we've done earlier, minus 0.3, and then I'm going to go and detach this instead of deleting it. And by detaching it allows me then to texture it as a entrance of some kind. So maybe it's a glass roller shutter door, maybe it's metal, maybe it's something else, depending on the style of the building. Maybe it's something much more camouflaged. So that then allows me to create that. Now you can see that you've done the same thing on the other side because they were actually instanced. So that is something that I should have actually made unique before going and doing this. But if you do see that error being made, just go and basically make it unique, so uninstancing it, and then go and delete the part that you don't want. And you can go and drag the vertices that you do want into the correct position. So I'm just going to drag that across. There we go, and that is basically it. So I'm going to hide the plan and hide that as well, and then just reveal my context buildings that we did earlier. And then for the sake of it, let's just have a look at how it looks when we have our roads and all of that in as well. So here I think that we want to actually drop our context buildings, or at least pull our road in. And you can then go and massage these little edges that still need some pushing and pulling. But that I'm sure is within your capability, so I'm not going to focus too much on that right now. So there you have it. We've done the first facade, all done and ready. The only thing left to do now is to texture it and light it, which we'll do later on in the course. And right now we're going to move straight on into the next facade, which is the much more contemporary one, the much juicier one, and the one that I can't wait to get into. So let's go right ahead onto the next lesson with the facade number 2.